Mr. JJ Munoz, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's still cold here in Minneapolis, but it's not Texas weather.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like 60 degrees here in Texas.
Yeah,
It's fluctuating as it does per normal here in January.
yeah, love it. Well, I'm excited to have you on. You're a former professional pitcher with the Phillies, and you've had quite the roller coaster ride. And so you have gone from the pinnacle, let's say, of sports down to the abyss. And now you are excelling in the health and wellness space out of all places, so I think it's really cool. And I'm looking forward to getting into it with you here today. So with that being said, I'd like to ask you kind of a loaded question as you give us, some of your background starting as early as you want. I'd like to get into how you got into pro ball. Whether I know faith is a big part of your life now, but I'm curious to know if it was back when you were going through the draft process and in high school, and what kind of pressures you faced, and that decision for you to go pro. You are in recovery, so am I. So we share quite a bit in common here. And so with that being said, go ahead and let us know where you come from and how you got into pro ball.
All right. My name is JJ Munoz. I'm originally from Oak Cliff, Texas, and grew up in the southeast corner of Dallas in a suburb called Mesquite. Went to Balch Springs Elementary School at Walter E. Floyd Elementary, man. The home of Terry Fader, one of the premier ventriloquists in the country, and the Sale Place, which is a mom and pop shop that started off as a hobby for the mother making moms and developed into this big, huge worldwide marketplace where people come from all over the world to get materials to make mums, and they're dear family friends of mine. So, but growing up in Balch Springs and Mesquite, went to Mesquite High School, became a high school dropout, did not graduate with my class of 86. Went to go live with my grandmother in 87, graduated from Rockdale High School, a little small town where my dad is from, about 3,000 people. The old Alcoa aluminum plant used to be out there, so that was a big attraction for people that were working out in this little small country town. Earned a baseball scholarship to Panola Junior College, 2 years as a pitcher there. Honorable mention, All-American for 2 seasons. Transferred to Lubbock Christian University for my junior season on a full baseball scholarship. Somehow, just by, I don't know, the Forrest Gump dumb luck, worked my way into the starting lineup and became the starting right fielder when I wasn't pitching after 2 years of not swinging a bat. And I still was blessed again with some incredible opportunity, then somehow find a way to lead the team in hitting. And that was a conundrum in itself. And signed my first professional contract with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1990, and was fortunate to climb the ladder from rookie ball up to Double-A in 4 quick seasons with the Phillies. Unfortunately, blew out my elbow in 1994, the year of the strike, and had to do a lot of soul searching and find a lot of intestinal fortitude to train on my own, because once the teams went on strike, I could no longer utilize the facilities. Now it was basically up to me to get myself ready for any possibilities of returning to the mound, and did that with complete dedication for 10.5 months and got myself ready just in case somebody else called. And it just so happened that the Kansas City Royals made me an offer, and I was able to attend early rehab camp with them, which was really, upon returning, the front office called me in and said, well, we've decided to make a shift. We've decided to keep you and put you on our Omaha AAA roster. Now, I haven't ever been above AA. And they looked me right in the eyes and they said, here's how it plays out. We're going to send you to AAA. You're going to start off on the disabled list for the first week until we finish making all of our moves. And then essentially, we're going to give you the ball until either your shoulder falls off, or your elbow falls off, or you prove that you don't belong here anymore. And nowhere in there did it say that you show us that you belong. It was all negative connotation. You either injure yourself again or you can't cut the mustard, is what I heard. And I didn't hear anything that says, yeah, we're excited to have you. We're looking for you to build and grow. So again, I've done it my whole life. I've always taken any negative things thrown my way, and I've let that fuel my fire, because I teach my parents, my baseball players, of all the athletes that I coach, that what we're always looking for is the 3 Ds: the dedication, the desire, and the discipline are things that I know can't be taught. You either have it or you don't. Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm always on the lookout for those athletes, because I know what it took to come back from a Tommy John surgery and make it back in 10.5 months. And the goal was, this is how I feed my family.
Yeah, right.
This is how I provide for my family. And this is a goal that I've known since I was 5 years old, that jokingly, the first time they put a ball in my hand, I tried to throw it right-handed, and I threw it that way. And then they say, well, try with the other hand. And I threw it right through my uncle's hands and hit him in the forehead with the baseball. And I just laughed, and I said, you're going to watch me play on TV one day. And I just took off running down the way, and there was a base at the field that they were practicing at, and I did a hook slide into third base. I went safe, and from then on, at 5 years old, everybody knew, okay, well, maybe we got something here. So
yeah, right. And people call you crazy along the way too, I mean, with those unrealistic dreams like that. And baseball's unique in the fact that it's a wear and tear sport, and then once but not on the physical side like football, but it's the amount of games that we play once you reach the professional levels, certainly.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a few things there that I think are important, the dedication, the discipline, the hard work, the obstacles that pushed you to perform and work harder, and as a consequence, hopefully perform better. But addiction entered your life. You started dabbling in some vices early on in your life. Is that right?
Very early. At 12 years old, the drugs were introduced. Actually, about 10.5, 11, I kind of stumbled into a room with a bunch of guys around the table, and there were drugs on the table. And it was like, what are you doing in here? And I was kind of grabbed, and the way it was introduced was like, okay, you got to do this, so now you can't tell anybody. It was kind of pushed upon me like that. And as well as anybody else, all it takes is one taste of any kind of foreign substance. And when that got into my system, then every other time I saw that group of guys, they were like, okay, here, do this. And then before I know it, by the time I was 12, I was already in addiction. I was craving it. And that's pretty much how it started. And sadly, these were family members that I couldn't avoid. I was going to see them at every family function. Now, since we have made amends, since they have, they wrote their letters when I went to rehab when the night of the intervention, they wrote their letters apologizing for how they introduced it to me and how they forced it on me and how they brought me into this. But, it's just, it was easy to forgive because I was just a young kid. I was trying to hang out with the big kids. I was trying to fit in, and it's something I've done my whole life. And I say, if that's one of the big things that drove me as I was making my mark in the baseball world. I realized trying to fit in with the older guys always had me playing baseball with the older guys. Always had me competing against and finding out that I was having success against the older guys, the bigger guys, the faster guys. So that's when I realized, once we got into junior high, where I'm actually pitching against the high school guys and having success, it was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And then taking it to the next level, once you go to spring training, you're facing guys of all ages, right? You're facing the seasoned veterans, you're facing those guys, and you're getting thrown in the mix. Whether you're a prospect or a suspect, they want to find out sink or swim. So,
oh yeah, it's a business.
They throw you to the wolves, and fortunately, I did have great success along the way. So, always accepted the challenge, and I think that's probably one of the things that was my driving force. That didn't matter what challenge came my way, I got this.
How did you manage the requirements of professional baseball from an energy standpoint, right? The day in and the day out grind. And what were the drugs? Was it alcohol, or what were you taking part in?
Alcohol. Back then in the 90s, it was crystal meth. And of course, I was doing a combination of heavy drinking, crystal meth, and then I was smoking weed, smoking pot to try to come down. And sometimes I would take some pills to bring me back down, just with the daily grind, as we call it, knowing that you've got to perform every single day. And I'm 5'9", at first coming in, 178, 180 pounds, maybe 185 on a good day. But,
But you're a left-handed pitcher too, though. So
left-handed pitcher. And I didn't hit the 90s until after like my second or third season. I was 87, 88, what they call crafty.
But, so was I. I'm left-handed pitcher as well. I didn't throw very hard at all. I just spot up.
I always knew how to pitch. Always just knew how to pitch. And one of the tools that I had in my toolbox was my pops always worked with me on my pickoff move. He's like, this can be one of the greatest tools you'll ever utilize, but you have to keep it sharp. So every day we would work on balance drills, coming up right to the precipice of not crossing over and utilizing the head movement, either looking right at them and turning at the last second, or turning and making it look like I'm going to the plate and coming across, or even the snap throw, step off and throw. So many different variables that I utilized, and I always had a pretty good pickoff move. Matter of fact, when I got called up to the Florida State League in 91 with Lee Elia as our manager, in Clearwater, we were towards the end of the season, and there was bases loaded, nobody out. He brings me in, and he's like, all right, Lefty, here's the ball. He goes, your job is to get me out of this, but don't throw a pitch to the plate.
Oh.
And he just winked at me, and he smiled. And that's all he said. And he walked off the mound. So I knew right then and there that I was going to have to pick this guy off. So we did. And then I got the sign for intentional walk, the next guy, because he's right-handed, right? So we walk him. And then when the next lefty comes up, I keep getting the throw-over sign. So I pick that guy off. And then I get the lefty to fly out to end the inning. And as I came off the mound, I'll never forget. Skip, he looked over at me and he winked and he goes, "That's how you make me look good." At a kid.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Us lefties, we have the, advantage that way from a pickoff,
Absolutely.
perspective. So,
but that was a big thing that we're having to perform every single day, right? So knowing that the nightlife that's out there, it doesn't matter if you're in Timbuktu, you're at a minor league city that hosts the team, there's always something to do.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's a nightclub, whether there's a country dive, or I got no other way to say it, or the local cleat chasers, right? So it was always something. And then as hard as I played on the field, that's as hard as I lived off the field. So knowing that I was doing that, I had to know that tomorrow I got to go work twice as hard to work and flush my body of all these toxins. So it just was the vicious cycle that kept leading. And because I was already an active addict, I had accessibility to all this, and which really, really hurt, because the stories would always get through the clubhouse and always get back to the front office. And, they all knew and they were all aware that, hey, this guy's doing it on the field, but he's also doing a little too much off the field, because everybody hears the stories in the clubhouse of, "Hey, Loco, what'd you do last night?" And when you said they call you crazy, that's my nickname.
Yeah,
all of my teammates today still call me Loco. And very few of them call me by my name today. And when they'll send me messages, they're like, "It just doesn't feel right calling you JJ or texting JJ. You will always be Loco to us." So,
yeah. Well, I think a lot of athletes, especially in baseball, I mean, I found that because we're playing 142 games or so in the minor leagues, 160 in the big leagues, getting a day or two off. Now it's changed a little bit now with the schedule, and mental health is in the game now.
Absolutely.
But when we were playing, they didn't care. They just want you to show up to the field. If you perform, they have no problem turning a blind eye, and so you're managing to live almost like a double life in a way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a lot of players have done that. I played 9 years in the minor leagues, 8 years in the minor leagues, and a lot of guys were doing that. And I partook in that too. And it takes its toll, certainly. So now you're done with baseball. Talk to me about what led you into a rock bottom type scenario, that scene, if you will, situation. And then what led afterwards? How did you muster up the courage to take action and start getting over these vices that were, sending you on the street, putting you on the street in a real way?
Yeah. Well, for all of the work that I put into being a minor league professional baseball player, and not getting the opportunity to make a big league roster. Now, I had a couple of non-roster invites to big league camp. I had the opportunity to pitch in a couple of split games where, you had major league ball players going to one field, getting their at bat, and then as soon as that at bat was over, they go over to another field and they just jump in the lineup. And so I had the opportunity to pitch against many of the major league ball players in our organizations, and was relatively successful. And so not getting the opportunity to make a big league roster, I used that as my, "Oh, woe is me, I didn't get a shot," politics, blah, 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 every excuse that I could to play that victim mentality. And then I used that into my personal life to be the excuse as to why I was just lazy, good for nothing deadbeat, to where when I got married, we had our child, after being forced out of the game with nobody tendering me contracts. I got a career ERA below 3. I've got a career strikeout to walk ratio 3-1. I've got more strikeouts than innings pitched. All these numbers and things that I say, why don't I get a chance? Well, I just lived too much outside of the game. And I wasn't man enough to accept my responsibility, my part of what I did, so that I didn't get that call, right? And I took that into my marriage. I started playing the drums in a band. That exacerbated the whole scene, because if you've ever been a part of musician life, it's even worse. The drugs, the alcohol, the womanizing, all that stuff running rampant, and got to the point to where my ex-wife actually just loaded up with our daughter and the clothes on her back and a bag of clothes and took off back to Mexico, where she's from. I came home to an empty house. And then I used that as another excuse. Finally, some 10 years later, I find myself homeless. I find myself in a situation to where I'm either couch surfing, and now this time I'm a full-blown drug dealer, and I'm clinging to anybody and everybody who wants to give it a try. Anybody and everybody, hey man, dude, I just need a couch to sleep on, sleep this off for a few hours. When I wake up, I'll get up and I'm gone. I'm out of your way. Oh, okay, well, here, break me off a piece. Okay, yeah, here you go. And I'd go sleep over on the couch. And then when I wake up, get up and gone. And I did that for about 8 months. Lo and behold, when God sent the ice storm of 2011 in January, found myself again out in the elements. I asked some people, hey, I'll hook you up. And they're like, no, man, I've had enough. I can't do anymore. You can't stay. You got to go. Finally, one associate said, well, here's the key to my storage. You can go hang out there until the storm blows over. And, it's 12 degrees outside. And in a little metal tin box of a storage unit, it gets even colder. There's no insulation. It's just concrete and tin metal and the outside elements. So it was even colder inside there. And I really, really thought I was going to die. I honestly thought I was going to die. So as we addicts tend to do with these delusions of grandeur, all the scenarios are running through my brain. Oh, what is the headlines going to say when they find me frozen to death in the morning? Ex-pro baseball player found frozen to death in storage unit. Such a drama queen, man. Such a drama queen, right? So I just was like, okay, I'm going to cash it in. Reached in, loaded up my pipe, grabbed this brand new package of Bic lighters, opened it up, and tried each and every lighters, tried striking it on every single surface I could find. Not one of the lighters would light. Huh. And I thought, well, great. I can't even OD. I can't even kill myself. And it was in that instance that I realized I'm at a crossroads here. And at that moment in time, I thought, you know what? It's time to check it in. So I just poured the drugs down my throat, swallowed them all, and it was a large, large amount. Come to find out, after 31 years of addiction and my body building up that much of a tolerance to it, all I did was just spin my brain out of my gourd for 36 hours. And thinking, okay, at any moment, my heart's going to explode. I'm going to die, and I'm going to die. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and it never happened. I finally reached over and picked up the phone that my ex-girlfriend, my former high school sweetheart, who had found me about a year prior and was nice enough to supply a cell phone for me so that I could come visit her from time to time, and we could keep in touch. And I sent her a text message and I said, there's no way I'm going to survive or stay sober on these streets. First time I admit anything to not being sober or doing anything illegal. And I said, will you help me? She asked me where I was. I sent her the address. She braved the ice and the snow, which is normally a 20-minute commute. Took her an hour and a half to find the location because of the ice and the snow. And then an hour and a half to go back to her apartment. And she let me sleep it off for these next 3 days while she was going to and from work. And over that course of time, my father had seen an article in the newspaper, and he sent her a message, and he said, hey, go get a newspaper article. There's this article you need to read. And so she went to the store, found the newspaper article, and it had a phone number for these interventionists and an email. And she did both. She emailed and then she called them and they talked. And by the third day, on January 11th, 2011, they were ready to perform the intervention. And that was the night that I checked into the House of Isaiah drug treatment program for men. And it being a faith-based program, that's where I rededicated my life to Christ. I've been walking faithfully with him for 14 years now.
That's a hell of a story.
Blessed beyond belief, man.
I want to get into the faith here in a moment because when I know the data on this, since I'm in recovery, and without bending our knee to something greater than ourselves, and to the individual, they can define what that means for themselves, but surrendering ourselves to something greater. I'm with you on the God side, the spirituality side of this, because if we don't surrender to something that's faith-based, the relapse numbers are staggering.
Oh, yes.
They're staggering. I have a question for you.
Yes.
It sounds like you never took the time. So you did what I did. I traded one high octane industry for another. I went pro baseball to filmmaking in Hollywood, California, and you went into the music world and were traveling as a drummer. Why do you think I never took one single moment to say, Eric, should I ask myself these rhetorical questions and reflect? Why do you think specifically males, we don't take the time to say, should I do this? What are the pros and the cons? Are the people I'm surrounding myself with positive influences? Why don't we take time to step back and say, okay, baseball's over. I was defined by the game. I'm creating self-awareness here. I'm gaining self-awareness and saying, okay, well, let's be strategic about my next move. We tend to just bounce from one to the next because we need that adrenaline. We're competitors. It's pumping through our bloodstream. We don't know any different because in order to become a professional athlete, I mean, we have some talent inside of our body, and it's undeniable. And so we become accustomed to the success and the people patting us on the back and saying how great we are. And that starts for most guys, that starts in our teenage years, let's just say. What's your view on that? Like, why don't we take a moment to open up and say, I'm stuck here. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do next now that my career's over. And for us, it's baseball, but it's anybody in any sport or any career that they have to pivot.
I believe it's twofold. One, and it's biblical from the first impact point is the fact that we're the provider. Biblically, it says we are to be the head of the household. We are to provide stability financially and spiritually, lead our household, right? Which was something that, even though I knew growing up in the church as a youngster, it wasn't something that I was ready to embrace as an adult. And then two, from the chemical standpoint, as an addict, the brain is constantly wanting that synapse of gratification. And the drugs, the adrenaline, the stimuli, that all of those things, the entertainment industry, and let's face it, baseball is an entertainment industry.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. The movie industry, music industry, whatever it is that's part of entertainment, there is a rush that comes from that. So, like the chemical reaction with drugs, now our brains are always looking to feed that and feed that and feed that. And then with the spiritual side, whether you are a Christian or whether you're just of the earth and no other formal belief, but there's an inherent nature for us to be the apex and the alpha. And so it's just in our nature, man. And when we don't have that anymore, now there's the void, there's the emptiness. And, when other people were like, hey, why don't you come back and start playing in the men's senior baseball league? Immediately, I'm like, hey, listen, I've already competed. I've already done it at the highest level that I could possibly take it. I've played in these men's senior baseball leagues. We win countless championships back to back to back. I've done all of that. I have no more desire to compete with anyone else anymore. Now, the only person I want to compete with is that man looking at me in the mirror.
Yeah, right. That whole filling the void, it's all relative. That kind of reminds me of Michael Jordan and his gambling. I mean, You can't just, when you're worth that much money, you're not gambling $10 a hand at blackjack. It doesn't get the juices flowing. No. And you're not getting, and many guys are not going to go play that summer men's league baseball because it's a level below what we're used to playing, and it doesn't get the same juices, flowing. So that's well put. I mean, we are certainly chasing that rush, being in front of people, being on the stadium or in the stadium, on the mound or on the stage or whatever it is. We do have that adrenaline rush, and then drugs provide that. That's our dopamine system, our serotonin system. And then we need more because we build a tolerance up to it.
And I will say, especially not only because we're professional athletes or former professional athletes, but because we're performing in front of an arena, a stadium or stage or wherever it is, now all eyes are on me. Nothing happens until I throw this baseball. Even though the guitarist may start the song, I keep the beat. Right. I keep the rhythm. I keep the time. And if I don't do that, then the music doesn't sound good. So there's a little bit of narcissism there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that's what feeds that sense of accomplishment. Yeah. That's what feeds that rush. And when people come back, they're like, oh, man, great show. That was fabulous. Oh, I love the way you throw your sticks into the crowd and you start playing with your hands. And, man, I had such a crazy hairdo that I would have 4 braids and I would use that hair glue and put these wooden balls in the end of my braids, throw my sticks, and I would use my hair and hit the balls on my cymbals and on my drums. And, just the moniker of Loco. I had a reputation to live up to. Mm-hmm. So it was always performing at something. And when the music dies, when the lights go down, what's left? Right? So
just you in the mirror.
Keeping that void filled. And it wasn't until I turned my life over to Christ that I truly feel my heart filled. And once that was full, then it was like a whole new world had opened up, and I could see from a completely different perspective. I've got to get out of myself, and I've got to pour into others. I've got to share what God has done for me, and I'm going to share it with others. I'm going to tell my story about what God has done. And I get to tell it all over the world. I get to tell it in my social media. I get to tell it in my business. I get to tell with my church, with Celebrate Recovery. And now, serving in my church in the capacities that I serve, I'm driving for our food pantry called the Central Storehouse, and I get to drive people home with their groceries. And in those conversations, I get to share my testimony. And it was beautiful. Yesterday, a young lady actually asked me for information to the different drug treatment facilities that I'm associated with. And we were able to pray for her when we dropped her off at her home, and sharing that contact information and letting her know, look, we will follow up and we will do whatever we can to assist you and help you. And don't worry about anything else, because these people will show you nothing but love. And that in itself is something that just gives me peace every single day.
Yeah, you're living through what I have come to learn as is the adventure of life. So yes. What I mean by that is and I learned this through Jordan Peterson, who I follow quite intimately. I've never met the man, but I credit him for in many ways saving my life. Awesome. Like he has many other, primarily males, but love and sacrifice and service,
yes,
and responsibility. When a man takes on love and he's sacrificial in nature, people don't realize that everything we do is goal-oriented and we're sacrificial in nature, right? If you go to a job, you're sacrificing your free time for that job to do what? Provide for your family, put food on the table, a roof over, people's heads that you love, and then responsibility. We cannot have an adventure of life and live to the fullest without voluntarily taking on maximum amounts of responsibility. What would you say to somebody who's struggling? Like, what are the three things in order? Somebody's struggling, they know they need some help. What are 3 or 4 things that come to mind so they can start taking some action? Maybe some things that you did, because it seems so overwhelming, like we know what we're doing is wrong. We're not the person we used to be. We're not on that stage anymore, or we're tired of our job. Something in our life needs to change, but we don't know. Just the thought of it is too much. What's a baby little step? What are some steps that somebody can take to get and to overcome their current situation?
Well, I know going through our treatment program and it being a faith-based program, I know that in the 12 steps, the first one is admittance, admitting that our life had become unmanageable. All right. And once you make that admittance to another human being, now you have created accountability. And the more people that you can admit it to, the more accountability partners you have. So this is why I'm so adamant about sharing my story, because now that I've shared it with you, now that I've shared it with this audience, anybody and everybody that listens and that wants to get in contact with us, they're now accountability partners. And there's always strength in numbers. For me, that's the first one. The next step is to find a place that you can trust and know that there's not anybody around here that's going to potentially lead me back down that rabbit hole. So even though NA and AA programs are good, one of the things that just doesn't sit well with me is that they have in their creed that we have to accept that relapse is a part of it. Well, okay. And this is just my take on it. And I'm not calling anybody anything, but in my opinion, that's a defeatist mentality. accepting that relapse is part of it. No, I can't accept it because my life is on the line if I relapse. The people that depend on me, the security, the financial part of it, the responsible part of it, all of that, those people are dependent on me not relapsing, because that potentially could cost me my life. And then that is just a domino effect that I refuse to have on my soul and on my spirit. And then I highly recommend getting into a church that is a faith-based, Bible preaching church. I'm not into different religious sects. I'm not into the different denominations. For me, it's all about straight up Bible preaching, Bible teaching, and Bible learning without somebody's personal interpretation. And that's
Right.
why I love the three churches that we are associated with today. Our home church, Central Bible Church here in Fort Worth. We live in Arlington, Texas, but it seems like for the last almost 6 years, Pastor David Daniels, every single sermon, he's been having Alexa listen to our home and taking notes, and each single every single Sunday is about what we're struggling with or what I'm struggling with. And it seems like every single message is directed for me. And that's what I love, because it keeps me grounded. It keeps me focused. And if you would use the analogy of a fire, when you start a fire, if you're using barbecue briquettes, let's say, you put those coals and you stack them up in a pyramid, and whatever you use, lighter fluid or just a torch to get it started, if you were to pull one of those coals and separate it from the fire once it gets going, the fire is going to keep burning, but that coal is going to burn out faster than the rest of the fire. And in order for us to stay on fire for Christ, in order for us to stay Christ-centered, where we keep Christ on our heart, where we keep Christ on our tongue, on our mind, so we can keep Christ on our tongue, then we have to stay connected with those people who are connected to your church, so that everybody pulls together. That's why a program like Celebrate Recovery is so important. That's why getting to serve at Central Storehouse, our food pantry, for me is so important, because I know there are people that come in. Of course, they're struggling to pay their bills, which they can't afford the groceries. We provide them with a service, but at the same time, we get to share the gospel with them. And so many people have committed their lives to Christ that otherwise would not have come to Jesus or had not come to Jesus at that point in their lives. And they come to Central Storehouse. They meet with one of our volunteers. We give them the option. Can we pray for you? What can we do for you? And then we take them throughout the storehouse and allow them to pick off groceries off the shelf, whatever it is that they want. And then we load their vehicle, or we load up the van, and I get to drive them home. So staying connected for me is vital. It is vital. And I know every time that I have a thought of straying away and not, I can't say there's not a time in these last 14 years that I've not wanted to go to church. And that's
it's community.
It's
community. And us humans, we are rooted in community to the extent that you can take the most introverted, narcissistic, malevolent human being in prison, let's say, and put them in isolated confinement, and they melt. and they'll die because of that human connection or lack
Uh-huh.
thereof. I mean, it's really powerful to really think about how connected we are as human beings. And without that connection, we're aimless, we're lost, we're in the desert. That's Old Testament. You know, so I think what I heard out of that was, tell somebody that you trust that that you're going through some issues. You know, I struggled with this. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't have the courage because I wasn't in tune with my own vulnerabilities to ask for help. And people really do want to help because they find people like you, they find people like me. And once we bring our thoughts to the front of our brain and actually speak them, a lot of these psychologists and the experts out in the field say the problem's like half over once you speak it out loud, because then you get inside the community one little step at a time. You find your tribe in many ways, and you find acceptance, and then you can start to heal. It's not an overnight process. Is there anything else that you lean into? Like, do you have a habit or routine, journaling, mindfulness, or anything else? Or do you work with psychologists, or at least when you started getting sober?
Well, when I checked into the house of Isaiah, we had certified counselors that came in every morning, and we had the morning routine where as first when we get up, it's everybody get up and start doing your chores. There was 21 men in this one dorm style house, and being the house leader, I'm going and I'm knocking on each door. Hey, let's go. Chore time, get your chores. And the creed was no chores, no chow. You know, you don't do your chore, you don't get breakfast. And we fed everybody regardless. And there wasn't any resistance other than the guys when they first come in. Many of the guys were assigned to drug treatment because of court-appointed treatments to avoid jail time, avoid prison time.
So it's not voluntary.
Right. There was a few reluctant, but, you know, once they saw how everybody got up and they did it, then again, it was community. We all took pride in keeping a clean house. And then we had breakfast in the morning, and then we went into Bible study at 7:30 in the morning. That was an hour long. Then we had community share. So everybody would share just a little bit of what they got out of Bible study. Then we had a little break. Then we come back and we did big book study. And then we come back and eat lunch. And then we go in and we break off into small groups. And we have hour-long sessions of small groups. Then we come back and we share what we discussed in our small groups. There's a full 8-hour day. And then in the evening time, we did 90 meetings in 90 days. Every single night, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday meetings, Wednesday and Sunday. We went to church every Wednesday night. We went to church every Sunday morning. And that helped with our structure. One of the first things, as many psychologists share, first thing when you get out of bed, make your bed.
Make your bed.
Make your bed, brush your teeth. Now you've started with 2 victories already. All right. Yeah, good. But a lot of our guys drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, you go to the bathroom, then they come back, make their bed. But, you know, it was just enough to make sure that there was structure and maintaining a structured routine every single day. You got responsibilities, handle your responsibilities. You don't, you get wrote up, 3 write-ups in a month. You had a choice. You could either endure the consequences that Isaiah posed on you or add a month to your time.
Okay.
And if you're paying, then that can get quite expensive. And I come to find out that this was a $2,100 a month treatment program. And Isaiah, former NFL linebacker, 5-time Butkus Award winner, linebacker of the year, and 5-time All-Pro, Isaiah Robertson, looked at me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to do you a solid, one former pro athlete to another. He goes, I don't normally do this, but in your 6-month stay here, he goes, I'm going to make you a house leader now. And you're going to keep my house clean. You keep my house clean, you go here for free. I got blessed to attend drug treatment for 6 months for free. And something that there was no way we could afford that. No way.
Yeah, right. Sure. I mean, in many ways, you're fighting for your life, you know, and going away like that, you know. So ask somebody for some help, get involved with your community,
yeah,
and implement a structured routine into your morning.
Absolutely.
And you know, interestingly, it's you can't have a structured routine in the morning unless you have a routine in the evening. So going to bed at a regular time.
Yes.
Not being on your phone, not eating a lot of food, especially sugar, before you go to bed, because the likelihood of us getting up in the morning and making our bed and feeling good and getting up and getting moving, those are, you know, we're less inclined to do so. So you are, the way you're phrasing some of these sentences, I've noticed you are, and I've started to implement this into my life. You're using the phrase "I get to," not "I have to."
Absolutely.
And can you go ahead and speak to that a little bit? Is that on purpose or?
Yes, it is, because
okay, I figured. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yep.
Gift, because
we get to do this. Yeah.
Yes. As a derelict, as an addict for all of those years, I was on a fast track to hell. I was on a fast track to my own grave. I mean, when I checked into drug rehab, I weighed 133 pounds.
Wow.
I hadn't weighed 133 pounds since I was 15 years old. Right? I weighed 133 pounds at 43 years old. I was wearing size 30 waist, and I had a belt that looped halfway around to the backside loops. That's how much weight I had lost.
Wow.
And here, just until recently, just until 6 months ago, 5.5 months ago, I weighed 245 pounds. And now, by the grace of God, I've actually lost weight. I'm trying to get back into my uniform playing weight. I'm hovering around 200. I don't know if I've broken the 200 mark just yet, but that's been the blessing in itself, because had I continued on those ways, most likely we're not having this conversation. Most likely I'm in the grave already, right?
Yeah.
So the perspective, I will start at night. I go to bed every night with a grateful heart. Thank you, Lord, for carrying me through this day. Thank you, Lord, for all of the abundant blessings you have upon us. I'm no longer sleeping under bridges. I'm no longer sleeping in storage units. I'm no longer sleeping in parks. I'm no longer sleeping in my car. I have a home. We have a couple of vehicles. We have our bed, you know, and now we have our business. And Lord, thank you for everything. And then when I wake up in the morning, I get to kiss my beautiful wife. And it's exactly the words that come out of my mouth. Good morning, beautiful. I love you. And I grab my Bible. I open my Bible app. I start reading my daily devotional. I send out to all the people on my prayers list that devotional that I'm reading that day. And then I get up and I go make my drink that helps now to put my body into ketosis so that I no longer have any kind of sugar cravings. And then I'm ready to attack my day and continue with my structure on any given day. Mondays and Fridays, my former college coach from Lubbock Christian University has hired me to work with his 4 grandchildren. They go to a private school and they don't have school on Mondays and Fridays. So I work with them at 10 o'clock in the morning till roughly around noon on Mondays and Fridays. On Wednesdays, they get out of school at 2:30. They're home by 3. We're working out from 3 to 5, 3 to 5:30 in the evenings on Wednesdays. And then whatever other baseball lessons that I might have, being an elbow and shoulder rehab specialist, been blessed with having a working agreement with Dr. Daniel Stokes from Scottish Rite Frisco Hospital that he sends people to me for me to rehab with them. So I get to stay pretty busy and I love it. But here's the great thing now is I no longer have to work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Starting with this new endeavor that we were entrusted to or blessed with, this ketone supplements. Now that I'm actually a promoter and getting paid for it, now I get to pick and choose when I work, where I work. I can work remotely from my phone all day long. So that has been able to allow a little bit more financial wiggle room to recover from the financial debt that I dug myself into before I got sober. And now I have a little bit more freedom to be able to pick and choose when I work, where I work, and the hours that I work. And it's been an incredible blessing. The business is booming, and I can't say enough thank you to my former pitching coach, Daryl Knowles from the Phillies organization, his wife. They started it. They got involved in the business about 7 years ago. And she called me about 3.5 years ago, asking me if I would be curious to try. And, all the excuses that I put up, I can't afford it. I don't have the money to be investing in this. I don't have the time, everything, all my limiting beliefs. And then she says, well, we have a program that allows you to actually get paid for it, or at least become an affiliate to where you can receive your products for free every month. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah. And if you want to become a promoter, now you can start receiving commissions and start drawing a paycheck from it. And
what's the name of the business?
The name is Prove It. Pruvit. Prove It.
Yeah, and it's ketones, right?
Drinking bioidentical, water-soluble, exogenous ketones. And
for people who, and I'll drop the description down.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the link and
Yes.
ways to get in touch with you down in the description. But for those that don't know what ketones is, or are rather, our body produces those, and we go into a certain metabolic state. So.
Yes. So, as I'm learning over these last 5.5 months, our liver and our kidneys produce ketones. And that's usually when we're starving and we're lacking nutrients, and we're lacking anything in our stomach. So then it starts utilizing our stored fat cells as your primary fuel source. And the fat cells are basically oils, right? So that means the fuel's going to burn longer, and those carbohydrates get burned off quicker. Those sugars get burned off quicker. They're like lighter fluid, right? But all the oils that getting utilized into your brain, now you're burning fat cells. You're getting rich mitochondria throughout your brain, your heart, your organs, your entire body. And that's also helping to rebuild muscle mass. And as we get older, especially 50 and beyond, we start losing 1% of muscle mass every year. And for me at 57, where having 4 knee surgeries, 2 on each knee, I had lost the ability to completely squat down on my own and completely bend down without needing a crane to lift me back up, or having to have somebody on either side. Hey, help me up, And in this journey, again, started at a roughly 245, probably a little bit heavier. It was about a week after I started that I finally stepped on the scale for the first time and saw 245. This 5.5 months, we've burned down to 200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Losing 45 pounds in 4.5 months. Now, my knees don't ache anymore. My kids that I do the rehabs with, they're astounded that now that I'm doing a full squat with no assistance, I'm able to stand up and throw the ball back to them. And they're just like, Coach, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm drinking ketones. And they're like,
yeah.
Now half of my athletes on our baseball team are drinking ketones, and their parents are drinking ketones as well, because they've seen what it's done for my body, my transformation, and they're seeing the positive results, because it's something that works for everyone. And a lot of people have this misconception that it's a drug. No, it's not. It is a supplement that is bioidentical, not synthetic, even though it is produced in a lab, but it's bioidentical and water soluble, means it dissolves in water. So you put it in a bottle of water, you shake it up and drink it down over the course of 30 minutes, and it fuels your body for hours.
Wow.
It puts you into ketosis within less than an hour, and it keeps you into ketosis for up to 6 hours, plus or minus a little bit. It all depends on your body and your lifestyle, your eating habits. But when it's done, it's eliminated, and I mean completely eliminated, all of my sugar cravings. And as a recovering addict, when we're in recovery,
we want all that sugar
is wired for those synapses to fire. Now we just put sugar in our bodies. And that's how I ballooned from 139 pounds to 245 pounds and probably up to 250. And it was just out of control. So we trade one habit for another. And now drinking the ketones, I no longer have those sugar cravings. There's no more in-between meal snacks. I'm so laser focused because I've got good, rich fuel going into my brain that I'm able to multitask and able to handle all of the tasks that are happening around me and be productive all day long and still not be worn out at the end of the day. And when I lay my head at night, I sleep like a rock. And I wake up fully refreshed, ready to go, ready to start another day. And thank you, Lord, to allow me to see the light of the next day. What's next? And
I love that.
My entire family, our friends, our customers, our personal affiliates, and our personal promoters, they have all witnessed from my social media, from seeing me in person, they've noticed a huge paradigm shift. Yeah, for the last 13 years, I was all smiles, I was all happy, but I was as round as I was tall, right? And waddling everywhere, and the only thing that I could
unable to squat.
Yeah, I could not squat. I didn't have any mobility. And now that they see that I've lost all this weight, now that they see that I'm active again, that I'm running again. It's something that I used to proclaim to my ball players. There's only one thing that I'm going to ask you to do that I can't do myself, and that's run. Because I'm fat, and I'm round, and I can't run. Now I actually can run again, and I do walk around my neighborhood, and the people, they've seen this transformation, and people are getting excited to join. And I love what God has blessed us with. And it came in the form of another expense. And that's one of the mysteries of God, I asked him, Lord, please, if it be your will, allow us to take this endeavor and allow it to bear fruit, if it be your will. And it took off like wildfire. I mean, in 4.5, 5 months, we have over 105 people in our line that are taking ketones, that have lives have been transformed, that they are so enamored and so grateful that they are sharing with their friends. It's like, no, I don't want to sell anything. It's like, no, we never asked you to sell anything. All we asked you to do is to connect people to us. If somebody asks you, hey, you look great. What are you doing? Oh, I'm drinking ketones. What are ketones? You don't have to say anything else. Here, let me connect you to these people that do.
Yeah.
And then we do all the heavy lifting. We do the introduction. We do all of that. And once we close the sale, then we'll say, hey, since you're a customer, since you're an affiliate or a promoter, share with me your referral code. And that way you get credit for it. And boom, now you've made some money for your next month's product. And you can make up to $350 for free products, or you can make an untapped ceiling, unlimited earning potential to being a promoter for the ketones. People misconstrue it as an MLM. It's a community market. And there's a difference. The MLM, you're only as capped by the CEO. You can't make more than him. But our CEO says, no, if you can make more money than I can doing this, then all means go do it. So there is unlimited earning potential with this company. And that's why we're so excited to be a part of it.
Wow. Your story is you got me excited. Your story is amazing. I mean, there's trials and tribulations and a lot of triumph in your story and a lot of inspiration. You've been through quite a bit that you shared, and I commend you for coming on here. It takes a lot of guts. You need to be brave to be able to tell your story, and courageous and vulnerable and all these fancy keywords that folks are kicking around nowadays, but it's true, and it started, and for you, it should start with all of us, is taking a deep breath and realizing, I need to change my life. And there's faith in that, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to hold for yourself. And you don't know what the next month is going to look like if you start taking some action. And that's scary. It's scary for me. It's scary for you. It's scary for anybody who knows they need change, but hasn't taken action yet. So once you took action, man, and that's that positive feedback loop, you finally get the drugs out of your system. You get the alcohol out of your system. Your brain starts to clear up. You surround yourself with people that are like-minded and supportive and not driven to shame you. And then you find your community, and you find your faith, your God as the individual sees it. And we start to heal, and that's sustainable over time, provided we put the work in and stay involved in the community. And now you're thriving in the health and wellness space, and you're staying in baseball, and you're able to squat now too.
Yes.
It's really,
and
I love it. I love it.
It's dropped from a size 42 waist. I'm currently in 36s, but they're loose. So I'm almost back into 34s again. So I'm super excited. I know that I get to go shopping soon so that I can replace the loose, falling off wardrobe, get a new belt, get new pants. I'm no longer wearing double XL to hide the muffin top that I used to carry around. The greatest compliment thus far, when I came out of the shower with my towel on one day, my wife was like, "Hey, I can see your abs again. Great job."
Oh yeah.
Yes. Fabulous.
Love it. I love it. Well, JJ, thank you from the bottom
Eric,
of
thank you for
my
having me,
heart,
bro.
thank you for coming on.
I
I really
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, so for all of you watching and listening, we hope that you got a few things out of this. And if you like this episode, please subscribe and like and comment and tune in for more, because the Intrinsic Podcast is really about the how'd you do it type stories. We all fall, and once we get back up, we're a better version of ourselves, and we can't do it alone. We need help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you don't lock arms, just like we did on the baseball field, we had our teammates that we locked arms with, that we went and lifted with, that we went and ran with, we played catch with. They would ask us pitchers, "Hey man, come hit me some fungos." "Yeah, I got you, man." So you got to lock arms with people that are heading in the same direction. Now, it doesn't mean you exclude anyone, because everybody needs some help. Everybody needs a nudge. Everybody can lift somebody up with just a simple, "How are you doing?" and engage in conversation. It doesn't matter what they look like. We can't judge a book by its cover. But always, when you have turned your life over and received the blessings that God has for us every single day, and you keep that perspective of having a grateful heart, good, bad, or indifferent, that comes our way, it really is a paradigm shift, and it's made the biggest improvement in our relationships, our friendships, our family, our finances. And I cannot go a day without thanking God for all of it, because my trials and my tribulations were God's calling card. That's what made me reach out to him. I did have to hit rock bottom. And the problem was, I had so many people that saw me for that former professional athlete that they allowed me to get away with so many different things. Nobody was holding me accountable. Nobody was checking me. Nobody was balancing me. Nobody was stopping me. They're like, "Oh, he's an ex-ball player. Those guys are a little bit different. Those guys, they can do stuff like that." No, we can't. We have responsibilities just like everybody else, and we have to be held accountable just like everybody else. Stop putting entertainers, athletes, actors on pedestals. We're all human beings, and we're all here for a greater purpose. And how we use that is what I try to do to glorify God every single day.
Love it. So on that note, JJ, thank you once again. I'll leave all your information down below so folks know where to find you. And I'm glad we got together here. So thank you again, and Godspeed.
Godspeed, brother. Take care.